Hey, this is Kristen,
And this is Ashley.
and this is 1,000 Miles of True Crime. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Kristen. How are you?
I'm good. I've been busy, as you know. How has your week been?
I've had a pretty good week. Obviously, like most people, I think that I was, ex- I don't know, excited or surprised by the news that you had gotten out of jail. So I spent like an entire day just re-listening to serials because I realized that I didn't remember all the details and I was just hooked. And I don't know, you listened to Serial, right? It was one of the first podcasts you listened to, right?
It was, but it was so long ago. Like, I can't remember, like you said, all the details.
Let me tell you, it, like, holds up. That podcast, they just do such a good job, and I had honestly just forgot about it. So I highly recommend if anybody is hooked, like, re-listen. It's a quick listen, maybe not quick, but I got through 12 episodes in like a day, and it was really good. It was worth it. So I kinda got my fill and, very interested to see what happens and where it goes.
Yeah, I am too. I'll definitely add that to my listen list for the week.
So I know you have been telling me that you've been having a very intense week. I know you've been doing a lot preparing for what you're going to cover today. So I don't have any of the real details, but I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, we're going to be covering Linda Collins Coleman. This is a case that I would say is not very well known. I actually had an exchange with Alisha, who is Linda's daughter. I actually met her through a Facebook page that we're both a part of. It's called True Crime Missing, Murdered, and Unsolved. And she posted about what happened to her mother in 1988. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is, like, devastating." And I reached out to her and I asked her if it was alright if we covered the case, and she was much appreciative and said she'd love to share and talk about what happened to her mom and to just really bring awareness to domestic violence and domestic violence prevention. So, this story just definitely needs to be told, and I can dive right in if you're ready.
I'm excited because when you told me about this, I remember I like Googled it and I couldn't find anything. So I think this is a really important story. And, we appreciate all the support from the family of getting the word out there.
Thanks, Ashley. So, Linda Collins Coleman, a mother, a daughter, wife, sister, just an amazing person, is recalled by her family members. She was born September the 28th of 1959 to Willie Collins and Ethel Collins, and she grew up in Austin, Texas. She came from a loving home. She had a big family, brothers and sisters, all got along. Her mom and dad later got divorced, but overall, she had a good relationship with her parents and her siblings. In my interviews with Alicia, she did give some memories and recollections of what Linda's sister, whose name is Dee Dee, and her brother, whose name is Willie Earl. So they were also sharing their memories and things that they recalled from growing up with Linda. And basically, they were giving their accounts of what happened to her. So, just to give you a little backstory on Linda, she had an absolute love for photography. And that was something that she was extremely passionate about. She was pursuing that dream, taking classes and everything. She was also extremely independent and very hardworking. And she's just remembered as being like a beautiful person inside and out by her family members. Really selfless and caring and kind by pretty much everyone that knew her. So I want to talk a little bit about her relationships. So her kindness caught the eye of Robert Coleman at some point in the early to mid 1970s. And so Linda and Robert, they fell in love pretty quickly. And Robert, he's remembered as being like a very humble, kind, and hardworking person as well. Just, he loves Linda. He would do anything for her. But he's also just an overall upstanding guy. And he genuinely loved Linda. So the two decided to get married, and then they moved into an apartment on Riverside Drive in Austin, Texas. And I'm going to talk a lot about Riverside Drive, and you guys will understand later. So they get married, they fall in love, move in together, and now they're ready to start their family. And they had a son, Robert Coleman III, and he was born June the 19th of 1976. Sadly, in a freak accident in 1979, while their son was playing in his room, he was only 3.5 years old. He fell out of his bedroom window. He didn't pass away immediately, but he did pass away shortly after that happened.
That's so tragic. I mean, I couldn't imagine. That's just not something you're gonna get over, right? Your 3.5-year-old.
Firstborn. Yeah, it's pretty devastating. Like losing a child is no matter the circumstances, they were able to get pregnant again. And that was when they had a daughter named Ashika in 1980. I know like losing a child takes a major toll on a relationship, I would think, right? So it caused some turmoil in their relationship, and the grief just overcame them, and it led to them breaking up sometime between 1983 and 1984. They remained married, but they were not like actually in a relationship anymore. And then late 1984, early 1985, Linda actually meets someone new, and his name is Maurice Sword. So Maurice is not from Austin. He's actually originally from Pensacola, Florida. And I mean, I can't really tell you much about his upbringing or his childhood or really like anything about his past aside from he did get into quite a bit of trouble while he was in Florida. In 1975, he was arrested for armed carjacking and was actually sentenced to 7 years. So he served some time, but he was actually paroled in 1978. And then he got in trouble again. He violated his probation and it I mean, from the records that I found, he was back in jail by 1980 in Florida. In 1983, he was arrested again for burglary and forgery and was sentenced to 3 years. It doesn't really appear as though he served all 3 years because if he would've, he wouldn't have gotten out so much later. I show he was released, sometime in 1984. He had been in quite a bit of trouble. He had some offenses against him. He's now no longer in Florida. Now he's moved to Austin, Texas. So initially, the relationship between Linda and Maurice appears to be going really great. Maurice has a job, he's got his own mobile home, and things are going well. But he actually ends up getting fired and moves in with Linda and her daughter, Ashika, temporarily. Then something actually happened. Alicia recalls her Aunt Dee Dee told her that Linda told her about a conversation she had with Maurice's mother. So Maurice's mom apparently gave a warning of some kind to Linda, like saying, "Hey, just want to kind of let you know who you're getting involved with. He's got a troubled past." And so Linda's like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" Well, his mom really was trying to like hold up a red flag, like, you might want to think about this one a little bit.
That's especially scary if it's with mom, you know what I mean? It's one thing if, like, some crazy ex comes over and is like, "Be aware of this guy," but, like, your mom is warning the girl you're with to watch out, like, that's a pretty big red flag.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. But, young love, we know, we've been there. Linda, she continued the relationship with Maurice, but that seemed to have been some type of trigger. So for Maurice, because shortly after that, Linda got pregnant with Alicia. And so that was in 1986. The abuse that happened was triggered by this conversation that Maurice's mom had with Linda. I think Linda may have had, like, a conversation with him, like, "Hey, your mom brought this up, like, what's that about?" And then that's when he started physically abusing her.
Do we think, like, everything's on the table? That I'm just gonna be my real self?
I don't know. I feel like it seemed like he just seemed to have, like, a hatred for women, and that didn't show, like, Linda didn't see that until she kind of brought it to him what his mom said. So, and maybe she was just curious to see, like, well, what does your mom mean by that? We can only speculate, you know?
Yeah, and I'm sure I'd be looking for an explanation too. I'm sure that's part of the reason she went to him.
Yeah. So not only did he start physically abusing her, he was also showing a lot of jealousy and controlling behaviors. And, that's scary in itself. When someone is trying to control you and gets extremely jealous if someone's looking at you or talking to you. So it had to have been a very scary time for Linda. And then, now she's like pregnant, or now they have this daughter. And it's like, what have I gotten myself into? So I do want to talk about some of the details of the abuse that she endured. And I'm just going to go over a number of events that I was told by Alicia as her family members remember it. In the beginning of the relationship with Linda and Maurice, Linda's family, they were pretty aware that Maurice had been abusing her. Like, it was evident. And Linda's father, Willie, and her brothers, they're protectors by nature. And they weren't trying to have that. They're like, nothing's gonna happen to our sister and my daughter. So there was an incident where Maurice was actually mistreating Linda in front of her family. That's a whole nother level of just no F's given, right? Linda's brother, Willie Earl, gets into an argument with Maurice and is like, don't talk to my sister like that or whatever. And Maurice pulls out a gun on him.
Wow. Like, where are they at when this happened?
I believe at Willie's, which is Linda's dad's club. Like, he had a club. And so he pulls out this gun and he's gonna do something to Linda's brother, but instead he ends up shooting himself in the foot. But to bring a gun and to pull it out on someone really, I think, shows the heightened level of just, I don't know, crazy. Another incident that Linda's sister told Alicia about that really just totally scared her is that Maurice actually stabbed Linda in the hand in front of her sister when she was just a teenager. So they were fighting at her apartment while, she's there visiting, and they got into this argument and he stabbed her in the hand. And after that, Dee Dee's like afraid, thinking like, I don't wanna really be present for this when you guys are fighting like this, especially if he's gonna get violent. So she was just like, she didn't wanna be around him. It kinda kept her from being around her sister because she's like, "This guy is crazy. Like, if he would hurt her, like, maybe he'll hurt me too." So she didn't visit her sister Linda as often, and especially if she knew that Maurice was there, she was like, "I'm not with that. I'm not going over there." Alicia also told me that other members of her family recall Maurice hitting Linda over the back with a chair and actually breaking the chair
That's
while she was
insane.
pregnant.
Well, she was pregnant. That's just so next level. Yeah, and if that's going on in front of people, like, what's happening when there's no one around?
I was literally just about to say that, those are just some of the incidents that the family remembers, but we have to think about, like, what was happening behind closed doors. Probably much more. Linda's dad, Willie, he was so bothered that his daughter was living through this, and you're powerless when your loved one is in a situation like this because no matter what you say or do, they have to leave on their own terms. They have to be ready to walk away and leave. He wanted Linda out of the situation so badly that he actually hoped for an opportunity like where he could stage it, like, let this dude come here and do something to my child, and I'm going to get his ass. I'm going to put him in his place and end it for real because he was that crazy. Like, he was like, "This guy is just ruthless," but he never got the opportunity to do that. So, obviously, like you were saying, there were probably other incidents that were happening that, the family wasn't around for, and Linda, she did. She had reported incidents to the police, but they were dropped. Even though she dropped the charges at some point, She still took precautions to keep her and her daughters safe. She had gone to shelters for protection. She was seeking out that help and really trying to dodge him so that he really couldn't find her. And it was at that point that it was clear and evident, and Maurice was probably catching on that she was really trying to leave the situation. So Linda's sister Dee Dee said that Linda told her she went over and visited with her at her parents' house. And she's like, "Hey, sis, you can come back over and hang out or visit with me," because she missed her. And she reassured her that Maurice was no longer in the picture. But that showed to me she was really done. "I want you to come over. I miss you." And she vocalized that Maurice was not in the picture. And then she actually got a protection order against him in February of 1988. All this time that she's gone to shelter, she gets the protection order. Maurice has stalked her. He's gone to the shelters where she's at and been arrested a couple of times. He's gone to her home or her parents' home and tried to just harass her or stalk her. So, all these things, the protection order, leaving the situation, going to shelters, it did not stop this man. He was just still on a mission. He had his heart and eyes and whatever set on Linda. He was just, it wasn't going to stop him. None of those things were going to stop him.
And it shows that she's doing everything right. You know what I mean? She using all the resources that she possibly can to get away, and she's still not able to get away.
Hmm. And I think that's kind of usually how the story goes when it's domestic violence is involved. When that one person is ready to really walk away, that's when that other person just something switches and it's like, no, I can't lose this person. She went as far as she asked her property management company of where the apartment that she was living in, can I be moved to a different unit? Because at that point, he still knows where she lives. She's lived in this apartment on Riverside Drive for all these years. And she's just like, I just need to be in a different unit. I still want to stay in the complex, but at least move me to a different unit. Like I'm fearing for my life. But they denied that request. And so she did whatever else she could do. She changed the locks on the doors. She was installing an AC unit in one of the windows of the apartment and it wasn't installed properly. I guess she had done it herself and the property management company had explained to her, "Hey, that's not installed correctly. The way that it's installed, it's faulty. The window cannot lock. And we know you've got this protection order against Maurice, your ex-boyfriend, but we've seen him kind of creeping around the apartment complex. So you might want to get that window fixed." So it's stated that this was said to Linda, but we don't know that. Like we can't confirm that. But they're said to have told Linda about this window unit. So Maurice now is able to gain illegal access into Linda's apartment. He claims that he had a key and that Linda invited him over. She had a protection order against you. And then there are other accounts that he climbed in through that window that wasn't locked. So it's he say, they say. An article from the Austin American Statesman, Ashika, who is Alicia's sister, Linda's older daughter, she testified that Maurice was actually over for a visit. So that's another conflicting thing. But I just wanted to state all of those facts that it's just unclear whether he broke in or whether he was invited over, and I don't think that we'll really ever know. Regardless, he knew he had a protection order against him. He should not have been over there. So Linda, Ashika, who was 8 years old at the time, and Alicia, who was 11 months at the time, they're also in the apartment. And as Ashika remembers it, her mom and Maurice started arguing, and her mom ran out of the apartment. She remembers Maurice going to the kitchen of their apartment and grabbing like a huge knife. And Maurice follows Linda outside, and Ashika is following fearlessly behind, like, what's going on? And Maurice catches Linda and begins to just stab her repeatedly. So Ashika is witness to all of that. Her instincts were like, I need to go get help from my mom. So that's what she did. And she ran to the manager's apartment and knocked on their door and just was like beating on the door. And no one opened the door.
She's doing everything she can.
I mean, she's 8 years old. And then she said that she recalls that Maurice had now ran back to her mom's apartment. So all this is happening outside of the apartment, like in the parking lot, and had taken the keys to her car and just fled. And so Linda sadly passed away outside of their apartment, not far from where her son had passed away a few years earlier. Horrifying. So this tragedy it's caused so much pain and trauma for the entire family. So Alicia's 11 months when this happens, Ashika's 8 years old. They've lost their mother and Maurice is caught. Yeah, right. Like he's arrested and he gets convicted, but these two girls are left without their mother. And another sad thing is because remember how I said Ashika was Robert's daughter, like Linda's husband, and then Alicia was Maurice's daughter. So when all of this went down, Ashika went with her dad, Robert, and Alicia went with her mother's mother. So they were separated. So now, really, whoever else they had really close to them are gone. So raised separately, I mean, they remained in communication, but it's not the same as growing up with your siblings in the same house. And from my interviews with Alicia, she just described how this trauma impacted her and her sister and everyone else also. Like her Aunt Dee Dee, her Uncle Willie Earl, her grandfather, her grandmother who raised her. It just from nightmares to flashbacks to, feeling disconnected from your family and not feeling like you have a cohesive, sound family around you, depression, survivor's guilt. And it doesn't matter. Like years of counseling can't fix that because you can't undo that experience. You can't erase that. It's happened. So I felt like that was just a devastating loss. And Alicia, she's without both of her biological parents after this happens because her father goes to prison and then her mother's passed on. And sadly, in 2001, Robert, who was Linda's husband, Ashika's dad, he dies in a car accident on the same street, Riverside Drive. It's so sad. I feel like Alicia and her sister Ashika, they have faced so, so much. And I asked Alicia what hurts the most through all of this. And she said that her kids won't know who their grandmother is. And she didn't get to have that relationship with her mother. She can't like pick up the phone and call and say, hey, mom, do you want to come see the kids for a few hours or take them to the zoo or whatever? Just the little things. And she said that it's just extremely painful. It hurts to the core.
You're proving that he stole like generations of getting to experience her and have her in their life.
He totally did. He totally did. So Maurice, like I said, he goes to jail. He was sentenced to 30 years for what he did to Linda.
Not enough.
Mm-mm. His trial too was also one of the first in Texas history to have a minor testify because they actually had a Sheikah who was really the only witness testified. And so there was an article about that too. And I just thought that's an incredibly brave thing to do at any age, but at 8. So there were multiple reasons why I wanted to cover this case because it doesn't end here. Maurice was actually released from prison in 2019. So he did his time, right? He did his 30 years for what he did. But those 30 years did not change the abusive, controlling, jealous mindset at all. In March of 2022, he attacked a woman with a knife that he was in a relationship with.
So almost like carbon copy what happened before.
Well, Not this time per se. He had cut her on her neck. So like really a flesh wound. It didn't, I don't think it required a hospital visit or anything like that. But I mean, scary enough. Uh
Hold on though, like, even if it's not like the intent of cutting someone in the neck is not like, "I just wanted to, say he was not," like that. I mean, for me at least, that seems pretty extreme. Let's be anytime you're pulling a knife out, right? Like, yeah, pretty extreme. But to cut someone on the neck, even if you didn't, fully, like, still, it's wow.
I will add this, and this is just from my own research of uh, learning about Maurice and his past. It was very difficult to find very much about him as far as like his past and even the what happened to Linda. And that's why I said there's probably so many stories like this that aren't being told or aren't being publicized. And we're talking about some of the stupidest things on the news. This is a repeat offender here that we're talking about, that at least in Austin, it should be, reported about. So I just feel like even if this other woman that he cut just recently, even if she were to try and research to see who is this guy, Google's his name, nothing. So I wish that there was some type of database that was free to people, men and women, where they can look things up and get that information. It's got to be free and it's got to have even older offenses because granted, yes, this offense against Linda or this murder that occurred in 1988, it should still be out there for people to access and know this guy has killed someone. So I'll keep going. 'Cause, yeah, he was arrested for cutting her on the neck, but it wasn't for what you think. It wasn't arrested for cutting her on the neck. He was arrested for violating his probation.
So did he get any additional charging with assault or anything? Just violating the probation. So,
He
like,
got out of jail. He got out of jail. They let him out of jail.
a again,
Yes.
yeah.
They let
Okay.
him out of jail after cutting her neck. They let him out. I don't know if the victim maybe was feeling bad because, again, if you're in an abusive relationship, she might have been feeling guilty, which she should not have been. She might have helped him get back out or no victim, no crime. Right. So on April 27th of this year,
Okay. Like a month later, right? Okay.
this same woman was attacked again, only she almost lost her life. Because he literally attacked her and as viciously as he attacked Linda. So bad so there were eyewitnesses, it happened at their workplace, that the victim had to be airlifted to the hospital for life-saving surgery.
But she's okay, she made it.
She survived. It was a vicious attack.
And again, at work, like, he's just doing this stuff in front of people, in front of the families or coworkers of these women.
It's sad. It's scary. And what blew me so much was how did he get out after the first cut? But in researching this case, I found a lot about sentencing and how parole review kind of works. I spent some time on the phone with parole boards. I spent some time on the phone with victim services, and it's crazy. It's crazy how it works. So he's in jail right now, but because of the amount of time that he's already served, so technically there's about a close to 37 years that he spent in prison. He becomes eligible for parole or parole review pretty quickly. And
Wait, but if he not get an additional charge then for almost killing her, this just kind of gets tacked on to the original.
so this is how it works because that charge is still technically pending. Because, granted, yes, it happened in April, but it's not gone to trial or anything like that.
Okay.
So he comes up for review for parole and has an opportunity to get out unless victims come forward and say, please do not let this man out. You know, I just, I feel like one woman has already lost her life. An entire family was just destroyed by his senseless act. And another woman has been pretty damn close to losing her life because of him. I just I don't know. I also don't want our listeners to think like that I don't stand behind rehabilitation or that people can't change, but I just feel like this scenario was just so different. And I just
It's also hard because one thing I never thought about was I actually recently saw something where when they come up for parole, like you're saying, the victims have to go in and they have to relive it all over again. And it's just sort of never over. And then, like, I don't know how often parole is, but I've heard like every 5 years or every 10 years, like, that's just not something I'm sure you want to relive over and over again.
yeah, but I was letting Alicia know I will be an advocate for you. If you want me to set a notification of when he's going to be up for parole review, I will send a letter. I will send an email. I will make a call. If you don't want to relive that and if you don't want to just have to do that every 5 years, I will be your voice. I will do that for you because it's just, it's unbelievable to me. That is how the system works, that someone could just get out that easily.
Especially a horrible situation like this.
I also too was very confused how he was even parole eligible, but that's a whole nother avenue to go down, you know what I'm saying?
We got to share this case with the prosecutors. I'm going to explain this to us.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like, don't understand it, the law enough. And it's not even just the law, it's sentencing, it's parole laws, and I don't even know. But I got a lesson from researching this case. And so I just want to close it with talking about some of the statistics of domestic abuse survivors and why Alicia really wanted to proceed with this and why she thought it was so important to share this story. Because we know there are so many reasons why it's difficult for people to leave an abuser. A lot of people are torn with, oh, but this person has been good to me and there's been good times and, the good outweighs the bad. That person isn't always bad, they have a good heart, but it shouldn't matter. If that person is physically, emotionally, verbally abusing you in some way, you've got to take a look at the whole picture and see what is really happening. And some other reasons would be like they're just scared, right? Is this person going to kill me if I leave them? Will they harm someone else that I love? Are they gonna threaten me? Are they gonna stalk me?
Well, that's it seems like she did do it right. She left. I mean, she wasn't with him. She took that really hard leap and left him, and she's still getting stalked. She's still having to go through this abuse.
And that too, that's why they don't leave. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence statistics stated that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced violent physical domestic abuse, and more than 20,000 calls are made nationally to domestic violence hotlines a day.
Both those stats are a lot higher than I would have expected.
I was really shocked by these statistics, other statistics that I had read. They said 1 in 2 female murder victims and 1 in 13 male murder victims are killed by intimate partners. So I just wanted to bring attention to this case and let you guys know that his parole has been, I guess, stayed for 5 years. So he won't be up for parole review for another 5 years. And I just thought that this was a story that needed to be told for Alicia and her family to kind of get some relief and also to bring and shed light on domestic violence situations. If you're in one, seek some help and get out. because situations like this really happen all the time.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. I think we all learned a lot, and I'm just really glad that, we got to get this story out because it sounds like it's an important one.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate all the love that you guys have been giving us. Continue to subscribe, like, share, listen, all the things, and we'll catch you in a few weeks.
Hey everyone, this is Alisha, Linda's youngest daughter, and I just wanted to come on here and say pay attention and dig deep. Those are the two things that I want to focus on. Know the person you're spending your time with most. Pay attention to every red flag and all the warning signs. They're there for a reason, and it's okay to ask questions. If a person has been in jail, take the time out to dig deeply. Sometimes it's deeper than the surface level. You know, if you're experiencing domestic violence, get out, even if there are children involved. To be honest, if there are children involved, there's more reason to get out. Children don't change the way a person will ever treat you. I know it's easier said than done. However, make a plan and get out. Please do it for yourself and your children before it's too late. I know it may not always be a lot of resources out there. Even if you got to get the police involved, press charges and do not dismiss them. Victim services will offer some type of help. Learn to protect yourself at all costs, no matter what measures you have to take. Do what you have to just to remain safe, is all I'm saying. Like I said, I know it's not easy at all when you're in a situation to leave a person, have a pray on it and ask God for any signs and a way out. When my dad took my mother from my sister and I, it was hard to cope for years. And to be without our mother, it's been hard just to survive at times. She would never get to see her grandchildren. We go yearly to put flowers on her grave. And all my children know about her is that she was murdered at the hands of my father, and a few things that I'm able to tell them about her. I was 11 months old when she passed away, so I don't know much outside of, what people tell me about her and what my sister's able to remember. And she was 8 at the time. I just wanted to bring as much awareness as possible to anybody that's in domestic violence relationships or anyone in the future that may happen to get into a situation, where they're being abused by somebody they love. Trust me, get out. That person is never going to change. Never going to change. If they put their hands on you once, they'll put their hands on you twice. So get out while you can. Do your research. If a person's been in jail, make sure you know as much about a person as you can find out. Like I said, sometimes you have to dig deeper than the surface level, but do what you can to know the person you're around. And if it's not good, get out. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to express myself to you all tonight, and good night.